Hello, my name is Jacob Doyle, and this is my narrative discourse for research methods. My personal discourse this semester focused in on the interest of urban renewal development projects within major cities. The typology on its own requires a lot of background research, of which it takes a project to come to fruition through its understanding of location, site conditions, and the client brief. Through these three main factors, there are many other fallout factors that affect each and every one of these through the influences of the culture around it and the material that's available to the project, the style of project, and the program and analysis from the client brief, as well as the cultural input on what type of project is needed for the area, as well as simple things such as the project budget and the volume parameters of any project. Going into depth on some of these aspects, you have the performance analysis that you would do on any new project, as well as the existing conditions around it to determine what is and isn't working, as well as the understanding of the persistent patterns in history that affect the project itself. These historical background checks are important in understanding the previous mentioned list items and how history and the performance of the space around can enhance or hurt the desired program in the end. Now, looking at the site as a whole, there's about three ways to go about understanding the site, whether it be the visual range, of which it's anything that you can see from the localized site, the walkable range, which is the affected culture and the lifestyle predicted for any person involved in that project, as well as the cultural range of the larger community around the site itself that will place an impact in material, style, culture, as well as overall feeling and acceptability for the project. A project that I studied this semester from the lateral office in Turkey was a very good example of this sort of contextual understanding of site, as the project being located close to city center and having access to both freeway, public transit in ferry, and trains left the site open for a lot of possibility of movement through people. The site, formerly used as a military infrastructure campus, was left largely abandoned after the Cold War. The former campus in its abandoned state left many tall structures, as well as walls, roofings, major roadways, and this could be largely used by the lateral office team. They saw great value in its lowscape as well as its vistas down towards the water, and decided to maintain this kind of folly-esque sense of movement through the major roadways with lower-lying buildings, and then bookending it with two larger structures at the end to denote the gateways of this new site. As for its new purpose, it would be used as a commercial center as well as institutional and recreational. I found that a lot of the characteristics of the lateral office project correlated with mine in how I went through my own research process. Seen on the left of the flowchart that I've shown earlier in the presentation, highlighting the three main points of location, site condition, and client brief, they, in contrast, have location, conditions, and function and program. Two things of which I denoted that were tertiary fallouts, but seem to host significant importance in the design process. And through the connection of lines, I found there to be a high level of continuity between their research and my own, and how I go about it, and how the questions that I derive from these tertiary elements can drive a project and create a factual-based design. Some of the overlapping elements that we had in common between myself and the lateral office were the performance and the understanding of how the building can operate and what you can use it for, the goal of persistent history and understanding how the site can affect and design for the future, as well as processes and experiences in the form of understanding the conceptual setup of something before it has been designed and understanding the impact of view shed, space, scale, as well as accessibility and feasibility. Other things include analysis of the site and usage, and the research and the functionality of history in the space. Some things that made us different were the analysis and cultural relevance, or on my side, that affected how the project could be viewed. There was a severe lack of information on the lateral office side. However, the research into the larger amount of space and usage of the existing buildings, being something that was unique to the lateral office, helped drive their project and made the feasibility of the project, while maybe not culturally involved, was very pragmatically involved in the understanding of what was there to build off of, in contrast of what is there for us to build for the people. This kind of research base is incredibly important, I find, in my own work, as to understanding how the project will be perceived in its performance, as well as its cultural significance of the site. Finally, taking the flowcharts that I previously created and the flowcharts created for the lateral office, I come to terms with a much less direct form of research, and how the project is constantly in flux and affecting and being affected by the cost, client, culture, and conditions of the site. While secondary elements such as program location, volume, and regional influence have major effects, they also affect indirectly through tertiary elements the cost and the conditions as well. While the client affects space and style, and the culture affects scale and the social interaction, the programs also affect space and structure. The location affects the site and scale. Regional influence affects the style and materials, and the volume affects social action, as well as the activity going on in the space, as well as the design. And then these things affect the cost and conditions. The back and forth nature of a project is a series of compromises. It would be impractical to say that every project can have every possible program, every material, and every budget possible, because there are so many more factors that come into play because of the nature of hierarchy, but also the localization of site as well as the project, and that not every project could be designed for every single location, and that all of these things are related to one another, which create a arguably quantifiably performative space that is successful, or can be at least measured in a way of providing sufficient use to the inhabitants and the people who surround the project. Thank you.